Hello devs out there, welcome to the dev node. So last video we have seen about the different techniques and coding standard to make your React application more standardized, more performant and less error prone. So this video is going to be the just continuation of the same. So in this video we are going to learn the different techniques that make your React code more readable, more performant. So without any delay, let's get started. So let's discuss technique number 1, that is maintain a structure order import. You probably recognize the deal here. It's difficult to distinguish what are all the third party, what are the local imports. They are not grouped and shipped all over the place. So better version of this would be this like this. The structure is clear and it is very easy to distinguish where the internal and external imports. So these are the externals and these are the internal imports. Of course, you can optimize it for the more if you are using the named import. So that allows you to import all the components that are coming from the material UI in the one line. So that is the better version of the importing the libraries. So second technique will be implement a USEREDUCER hook earlier. Having lot of use state hooks is always a great sign that the size of therefore the complexity of component is growing. So if you can create some smaller components where you can transfer some of the extra JSX, in this the great way to go. So if you can create some smaller components where you can transfer some of the state in JSX, and this is the great way to go. So if you are cleaning up the use state hook and your JSX in one step. So in our example we could put the last two states to separate component into the separate component that handles all the JSX and has to do with the form. So but there are the scenarios where it doesn't make sense. You have to keep those many different states inside one component to increase the legibility of the component. There is a USEREDUCER hook. So official React doc says this about the USEREDUCER is a usually preferable use state when you have complex logic state that involves multiple sub values and when the next state depends on the previous one. So USEREDUCER also lets you to optimize the performance for the components that trigger deep updates, because you can pass the dispatch down the instead of callbacks. So this way you can define the initial state, whereas all the states will be declared here, and then we can use the USEREDUCER function, and then we can use the reducer function and define the different use cases. So like here the case populate the customer data, case load map, and this is the more cleaner way. Also reducer is a pure function, so that way it can be utilized for the benefit of the component. So this is all about the technique number 2. Third technique we are going to study is avoid curly braces for the string props. So you don't need any curly braces that case, because you are allowed directly to use string inside your prop. When you want to attach a class name to JSX, you are most likely use it also directly as a string. So the deal here is you don't need for the string. So fourth technique is always use a fragments over div. So here most of the times we are returning all the components in a wrap inside the div, so we can using the fragments. Always use the fragment over the div. It keeps the code clean and also beneficial for the performance, because one less node is created for in the virtual DOM. So that's what about the technique 4, and we are going to take the technique number 5. So fifth technique is use MEMO for the reduce unnecessary rendering. So generally most of the developers don't prefer to use the React MEMO, but you can utilize for the better performance. React.pure component and MEMO can significantly improve the performance of your application. They also help to avoid the unnecessary rendering. So this piece of code can be written as this one. So whatever, so we just need to wrap the component inside the React.MEMO. So although the child component should render only the once, because the value of the count is nothing to do with the child component, but it renders each time as you click. So whenever we are click on an incrementing button, so it is getting unnecessary rendered. So here we are taking the example of the increment function here, and we have the child component which is rendering the, which we are passing the username, and then on the button click we are increment the value. But here whenever we are clicking on the increment button, also the username is also going to be passed every time, even if there is no need to refresh the child component. So internally it will check whether the previous prop is equal to the new prop, and if it is the same, it will not re-render again. So that's all for this video. We are learning the different techniques and different coding standards to make your React project more optimum. We'll continue to learn all these techniques. So if you are getting the values by this video, hit that like button, share it, subscribe, and see you in the next video.